How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? You know, in your life, you'll always be handling the issue between an employee and a company, no matter you decided to work for someone else or just you want to be the boss. You're always facing this kind of issue. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the relationship between an employee and a company. But before we get started, we have to know the broad idea for the company here. As being the companies, there are 4 different major types, right? The first is sole proprietorship, the second is partnership, third is limited partnership, and fourth one is limited liability partnership. But here, since we are just talking in general, therefore you can just assume this is a very general type of company. There are a lot of employees under this company, and you're just one of those employees. So in this video, I'm going to talk 3 major questions or topics. The first thing is, what can a company bring you? Second is, what can you bring to a company? And third one is, what's the healthy relationship between a company and an employee? Alright, so let's get started. First, let's talk about what can a company bring you. I believe for most of the people, they can come up with few things, right? First is salary. The second is probably the benefits or the bonus, and third is, for example, the insurance. So for most of the companies, they will provide these 3 things, and of course those are really valuable. I believe most of the people, they will just see these 3 things and that's it. Indeed, these are like 3 cards they put on the table and everyone can see it. However, you have to see something in the long term, since your mission is basically to maximize your profit over your lifetime. It's not next year or next 5 years, right? So what are the other things that you can gain when you are hiring by a company? So the first thing is, of course, the relationship. When you join the workforce, you definitely can meet a lot of different people. So here I would like to mention a very identical case, and that is Peter, who is the CEO for the Rocket Lab. A very short introduction for Rocket Lab. So this is a company that is always compared to SpaceX, so they're basically handling those kind of rocket stuff. For its CEO, Peter, when he was working at NASA, he basically met a lot of investors, and therefore when he wanted to set up his own company, those investors gave him money and he started up his business. The second point is, of course, skills. When you join a workforce, you can definitely learn a lot of practical skills. And those skills can definitely learn from college or from anywhere, since those kind of industrial level knowledge, those are really practical and precious things. The third thing, of course, is your achievements. In my opinion, achievements is the only thing that someone else that can bring out of you. Your achievements only belong to you. However, for example, like skills, what I mentioned previously, and also the relationships, those kind of things can't be taken from you. So for example, you have some skills, well, after 10 years, you just forgot this kind of knowledge and therefore you just don't have the skills. Similar to relationship. Well, for achievements, it's always there. Achievements are like testimonies on a particular person, and no matter when you go and where you go, these kind of achievements will always accompany you and certify you, and therefore you might find a better opportunity with this kind of achievements. And in my opinion, these 3 subtle parts are even more important than those kind of more obvious parts, and therefore seize the short-term profits or the long-term gains is your own opportunity. The second point is, what can you offer a company? This point should be easy, since most of the people, they're working at a particular company and they know what they are bringing to the companies. For example, the most obvious and also the easiest one is your time and your skills. So when you are working at a company, you are building a product, and therefore you are actually creating value to the company. And second part is your influence to the atmosphere or culture. This is also very important. A very influential person can actually change the team's structure and efficiency a lot, and I believe in most of the companies, they're always finding this kind of person. And third is a person's vision. Sometimes you just invite, for example, an employee to a company. Probably it's not because of the skills or the abilities or the influence, but the vision. The vision is a really important thing. A very identical case here is Steve Jobs. So if there is no Steve Jobs, there is definitely no Apple today. And what do you think Steve Jobs can bring to Apple, this company? Do you think it's purely because how much time at work that Steve Jobs had already developed in Apple, this company? It is, but it's definitely not all of them, since there are actually tens of thousands of employees under Apple. And if we compare the accumulated time, the Steve Jobs time spent in Apple should be very tiny, basically. And second is whether it's because of his skills. It's also not all of them, since Steve Jobs even, want code. That definitely won't lead to the final success of Apple. So that is purely because of his vision. A good leader does know what's the painful point in the market and also how to organize his team to get the best products and to take the most shares of the market. And third, let's talk about what's the healthy relationship between an employee and a company. And there's some people that are saying, I'm willing to die for this company. Well, it is definitely a good attitude and passion. However, you just can't take it too seriously, since your company won't think like this and vice versa. For example, whether a company would think like, I would die for this employee, that just won't happen, right? So here are a few things. The first point is you just can't rely or depend everything on your company, since a company might have a day that will collapse or falls. Those are the things you just can't anticipate. If you put all your belongings or all your hopes on a particular company, basically you just lose everything when your company fails. And therefore you should always be prepared. If you can do a really great job in my first point, which is you gain a lot of skills and have a lot of achievements, basically you can easily find your next opportunity in the market. The second point here is actually your company might betray you sometimes. Here is a story I heard. One employee, one day he got cancer unluckily and he got fired by his company. Probably you might argue if you were the employee, you would definitely find some approaches to fight against to the company and protect your rights. That's true, but that's more like a naive thinking, since in most of the cases, the employee, they just want spend so much money on the lawsuits to fight against those kind of big tech giants. Another thing, if you think vice versa from company's point of view, this actually makes sense. Since if a people got a very fatal problem, for example cancer, they know the employee just won't create any value in the future for this company, and therefore why they were still paying a lot of money to that kind of employee they want. So the idea for company is very simple. If you can create value for that company, you stay. If you can't, you leave. That's the truth. My point here is you just can't anticipate when the company will fire you or fail you or just betray you. You just don't know it. Therefore, you should always have this kind of mindset that you are not devoting yourself, your whole life, your whole opportunities, and your whole belongings to this certain company. You are not. You actually more like kind of a trade-off and also seize those kind of virtual benefits, virtual opportunities from your current position. The last point I would like to mention is you should always be grateful to a company. No matter what kind of position you are, no matter what kind of company you are in, you should always be grateful to a company, since not many companies will give opportunities to everyone, right? There's definitely no this kind of company. If the company gives you an opportunity, it means they trusted you at the very beginning when you signed the offer, and they're willing to allow you to make some significance to the team, to the product, and to the company. And therefore, no matter what, you should always be grateful to the company. I hope this video can answer some of your questions in your life and give you a broad idea on how the relationship should be like between the employee and a company. Thank you for liking, sub, and enjoying it, and see you next time.